It's an absolute pleasure to have you all here, and I want to thank you so much for making the effort to travel here today. I'm sure our delegates can't wait to hear what you have to say, and chairing this panel we have Caroline Taylor, National Secretary of Finance and Professional Services. I'll now pass you over to discuss, and Caroline to start the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. President. And thanks, you stole my introduction, so. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you coming to answer some questions for us. All three of you come from a working class area of South Wales, and one that community as a union has deep ties with due to us representing workers in the steel industry. Would you say your backgrounds have helped inspire the values that took you through your playing careers?
Yeah, I think I'm from the Swansea Valley, top end of the Swansea Valley, a little village called Abercrave. It's like 700 people. I think at one point there was 3 mines there, and you know everyone in the area lived there. But I think it's a weird one because I sort of developed a bit later. I say developed. I was 23 stone at 16, so I ended up losing some weight. But it was, and I don't want to sound. This isn't meant to sound like a boxer come out of the Bronx trying to find a new life. But if I didn't kind of have knuckle down and start working a bit harder, the sort of values my mother, grandmother, dad would have put into me, then I would have probably been working in the Sennybridge Army camp, which was going to be my next port of call. I came out of school with 3 GCSEs, so I wasn't sort of blessed, with the academic side. I got maths, English, and funny enough catering. So it was like I didn't. It was an out for me, but it was the work. It was hard for me then for the rest of my career. As I alluded to it, I enjoy eating, but I also had to train, on the bike every day to sort of keep it off. So once I kind of matured a bit, but it was a big part growing up. My parents influenced me.
Yeah, I think for me, I grew up in Port Talbot, as you mentioned. Yeah, it's obviously a steelwork town. My grandfather was a boilermaker in the steelworks. My stepfather was a crane driver. My brother worked in the steelworks as well. So a lot of my mates who I played rugby with were steelworkers. I remember actually training so I played for British Steel senior rugby. I remember I was actually training on the British Steel pitch when the blast furnace went up. So I got a lot of affiliation with the steelworks, and similar to Bom, to Adam, that I think my parents were a big sort of part of my sort of life growing up and giving us that resilience. My parents split up when I was about 13 years of age, so my mother worked 3 jobs, and I think you take that on board then, you realise how hard they work, and you take that on board as a dad of 3 boys now. And yeah, I think before I was a professional rugby player with Shane and Adam, I worked many jobs as well. I was a scaffolder, I was a barman, worked at Stay Bright Windows. I applied for a Meals on Wheels driver, but I didn't get that. But yeah, so yeah, I think it definitely living in Port Talbot gives you a good grounding, or gave me a good grounding anyway.
Yeah, very similar to both stories, really. I'm from the Amman Valley. We got the Abernant colliery up the top, and we had Betto's colliery the other side of me as well, and a lot of family members and friends worked in that kind of industry. And a lot of farming in the area. My grandfather was a farmer, so I was brought up kind of pottering around in farms and so on and so forth. But very similar to James, my mother and father divorced when I was 9 years of age. And not too academic in school. I'd done my GCSEs and finished because I wanted to help Mum out. She had 4 children, and I wanted to kind of provide, I suppose, and help with my siblings, and that was the case. My mother told me very early on that I needed to tie down a job because I worked in a window factory, I worked in Brecon Carreg, I was a baker, a labourer. I spent so much time in job centres that they ended up giving me a job there, to be fair. And I worked for the Employment Service, basically signing my mates on. It was a great job, enjoyed that. So yeah, through all that and through the grounding and a good family that they were very grounded and had great values. My mindset was, I do have to work hard and, sometimes be a bit resilient and do my best to get on in this life. And that definitely, got me where I needed to get to as a rugby player. And, even though we've been retired a long time, as 3 boys here, we still work hard. We'd like to think we've got the right values, and probably a reason maybe we're all sat on our backsides here speaking to you, lad.
Fascinating, thank you. All of you spent a lot of your careers playing together, whether that's with Neath, the Ospreys, or the British and Irish Lions. Over those years, what did you learn about each other as teammates? And can you describe what makes a good teammate?
I learned pretty early on Shane was an angry drunk. And on the flip side, I learned pretty on, if you give him the ball, he'd generally go and do something, and he'd make, they'd score a try. He was a freak that, I don't want to blow too much smoke up his ass, but he's, because as you can see, he's a really small man. He, like in a sport where everyone's a giant, 6'7", 6'8", if we were ever, and Hooky would be in the team as well, if we were ever in trouble, to give the ball to the smallest man on the pitch and expect him to do something, and 9 times out of 10 he would do it. He was, as I said, we learned pretty on that he was pretty special, and the angry drunk. But he was no, I think because I came through, me and Shane came through Neath sort of the same time, really, maybe a year or so different. It was before academies, it was before regional rugby, and there was a lot of history around the club. There was a lot of it was a hard-working club. It was renowned, certainly through the 80s, of being it was a tough club. It was I wouldn't say dirty club as in, but they were pretty ferocious side, and there was a lot of, you had to kind of live to a certain standard there. But it was a great club as an upbringing, because the fans, they're fantastic. Never really got on your back too much. It was just sad, it was quite sad when we had to go to regional rugby, because we were starting getting a good side beneath. But but I said, these guys are different to me. I was a forward, so I did all sort of the hard work, and these guys did all the magic, and it's people like that. And I'm sure they'll say the forwards, win you the games and all that. But these guys who were how much they win it by, and these two were special players.
Cheers, Bom. You were too, mate.
Oh, thank you. I was waiting for that. Yeah.
But no, I think like Adam said, I suppose we were all lucky enough to play with each other for many years, and over the course of 10, 11 years, I played with the Ospreys, and same for Adam and Shane around about the same time. And I think obviously we all worked hard on the pitch, whether it was for Ospreys, Neath or Wales, but we enjoyed each other off the pitch as well. And I think it's almost like Groundhog Day, a rugby sort of working week. We're all involved now with coaching. Shane's obviously head of rugby, Bombs in Quins coaching, and with the Ospreys, and it can get quite repetitive. Like a typical week during pre-season is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, training. The days are pretty much the same, and then when it comes to a game, the weeks are pretty much the same. So it's important to have that balance, and in any walk of life, you can't just be all about work. And I think the team sort of bonding was just as much on the pitch as it was off the pitch. So I think that was really important for us, and probably, you add in some special players like Bom just mentioned, it sort of helps the success. So I think you've got to have that balance, and I think that's what we benefited from, especially in our early sort of days in the Ospreys.
Yeah, we were called the Galacticos, and people just assumed that was just because of how we played rugby and everything. It wasn't. It was because of some of the personalities you had within that squad. And you had people like Mike Phillips, the best looking and best rugby player ever to have played the game. His words, not mine. So he was quite a confident individual. You had Gavin Henson as well, who was quite arrogant in his ways, but very insecure, and we had to kind of keep on top of him to make sure we had the best out of him. We had some of the toughest rugby players that's played the game, Philo Tiatias, Jerry Collins. We all had all these kind of different guys, and we had a lot of humble players, like the two guys next to me as well, who were just hard-working and put everything into it, and it just kind of worked. You learned the personalities off the field. Therefore, when you were on the field as well, you knew exactly who would take it right to the wire for you. You knew some of the guys that perhaps, were big game players, that when you were 2 tries down, who would kind of step up to the plate.
Talking about yourself here?
No. But you had that honesty in the group, and there was players there that you'd do anything for, and they do the same for you, and that was the whole camaraderie about it. And people ask me, what do I miss about playing? It's not so much the playing at times, it's the people you do it with, and the training sessions where you're all taking the mickey out of each other, or a little bit of support because perhaps the game before didn't go pretty well. That's one of the big things I do miss from playing for Neath or the Ospreys is, they don't warn you that when you retire from rugby, when you wake up on that Monday morning, you haven't got 30 other guys around you supporting you anymore. You know, it's time for you to kind of look after yourself and be a big boy. Very daunting, very scary. And the worst thing is, you know, you don't get to see these guys on a daily basis. You know, me and Adam used to, you know, from, when did you join Neath? 98, 99?
1989? No, 2000? 99?
2000, right, 2000. So, you know, from the start, me and Adam pretty much spent every day together. Adam goes to the Harlequins selfishly, and I don't get to see him anymore. You know, that's how it works. But no, look, you know, in all seriousness, we had a great time. We all trusted each other. We all played for each other. And you know, I think that's it. If you've got that kind of work relationship in any form, I think you're going to do pretty well, to be fair.
I just think we were good in the Ospreys when we had a good era. That, like I know you said we'd if someone had a bad game, and I think it tells you if you're a good squad and a good tight group that there isn't so much of a pat on the back. It's like you take the piss out of them. So if something hook you had a shocker, you know, no one would be like, you'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, okay, what'd you do here? You know, that. It was like that, and because we had a good team, and there was probably 20 odd internationals in the team, we had a good ability. I think the fact we could sort of just not take the mick, but yeah, take the mick really out of any issues. It moved on, and you kind of forgot about it pretty soon. So I think that's where we were so good. Well, that's where, as a team anyway.
Fab. And it's nice to see that trust and that respect, and your friendships outlasted your working relationship. You all enjoyed success with Wales under the coaching of Warren Gatland and his influential assistant Sean Edwards. What was it about their approach to coaching and leadership do you think helped the team become so successful?
Well, I'll go straight on to Sean Edwards for me. You know, Warren Gatland was a great coach and obviously achieved one of the most successful Welsh coach. But yeah, what I liked about Sean Edwards was just his honesty, his pure honesty. You know, he wasn't there to blow smoke up your backside. You're an international rugby player, so you should be pretty good once you go into the international environment. And my first meeting with Sean Edwards, he came up to me and said, look, Shane, you know, I think you're a class player, but we really need to work on your defence. You know, you're 77 kilos soaking wet. I appreciate you playing against players 120, 130 kilos. So I know how difficult it is for you. But after this Six Nations, I'm going to make you a leader, and I'm going to make you a better player. And I think that was the big thing for me. Just someone really to kind of tell me, right, you know, you're not quite there. I know you've played for Wales a few times, but I'm here to make you better, and this is what you need to do. And with him, it was tough, really tough. You know, he said what he felt, and it didn't matter whether it offended you or not. It was, look, I'm here to do a job, I'm here to make you better, and if I make you better and the team better, that makes me better. And, you know, I really learned something from Sean in that respect. And, you know, I remember my first defensive meeting with Sean, he said, Shane, you're going to be defensive leader in the backs. And I was looking at him thinking, hold on, Sean, I'm 77 kilos soaking wet. You want me to lead a defence for my nation? He said, yeah, we're going to do a different style of defending where the wingers come up, you're in charge. You know, if anyone doesn't work hard on the inside, you've got to let them know. But, you know, you've got to make sure it's not a 50-50. You've got to get in that line, and we've got to stop teams scoring. Now, in that first Six Nations with Wales, I think we conceded 2 tries in the whole championship, which is unheard of, and it won us the Grand Slam. And I worked my socks off with him because I trusted him. I knew he was doing this, you know, for me as well as himself and as well as the nation. And I learned so much from him. It was difficult. You know, he would get me in after every training session in the indoor barn at the Vale Hotel. And he would wait for some of the boys to walk in to go to the team room. And he'd go, it might be Alan Wynne-Jones. He'd go, Alan, run at Shane for 10 minutes. And he'd run at me relentlessly. And if anyone who knows Alan Wynne, he doesn't hold back. He'd run over the top of me 2 or 3 times. Then I'd put him down. And eventually, I got to the point where I was making most of my tackles. It always seemed to be either him or Jamie Roberts walking in for some bizarre reason. I was waiting for Lee Halfpenny, but it never came. And if there was no one there, he had this tractor tyre that he would roll at me flat out, to the point I tackled that tractor tyre so many times, I had Continental on my shoulder imprinted. But I knew he wasn't doing that to break me. He was doing that to make me a better player, and you know, it elevated me as a player. So those are the kind of coaches I enjoyed working with, really.
I think they just simplified
Yeah.
our game, which is exactly what we needed. I think, like you said, about Sean's first meeting was literally, boys, if I'm screaming and shouting at you, it means I actually care about you. If I'm not saying anything to you, it probably means I've got no hope for you as a player. So luckily enough, I think he shouted at the three of us a fair bit, so we took that as a compliment, really. But I think when they came in 2008, 5 months prior to that, Gareth Jenkins, Nigel Davis were in charge. We'd lost to Fiji in the 2007 World Cup. And if you think Welsh rugby is bad now, you look back 2007, we were playing Fiji to progress to the quarter-final, and we probably took them far too lightly, really. We were expecting to go to the quarter-final. If you remember, obviously we lost that game, we got knocked out, and before that game everyone was getting sort of tickets for their families and friends for the quarter-final. The next day, Gareth Jenkins lost his job. We get back to the Vale Hotel in Cardiff, get back in our cars, and like I say, if you think Welsh rugby's bad now, I had to get back to my house in Port Talbot and wave my mother and the rest of my family off to the quarter-final that we weren't even playing in. So that was tough times, like, you know. But as I say, 5 months later, Gatlin comes in, Howley, Sean Edwards, and just simplified our game plan. And we had pretty much the same squad, you know, a couple of extra players. And then the first game, we beat England in Twickenham for the first time in 20 years. And, you know, we talked about momentum. Yeah, it deserves a cheer, that, doesn't it?
Tough crowd.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think, you know, the momentum then, you know, we beat England, and from 5 months prior, losing to Fiji, we never thought like we were going to lose against Scotland, and then that momentum kept building, and we ended up winning the Grand Slam in 2008, which, you know, it shows, you know, in sport, things can change so quickly, can't they?
I think something stuck with me just on, like, everything was about working hard in the opposition, and we probably haven't had that mindset since, you know, ever, I think, in the Welsh team. You know, in every training session was 45 minutes long, maybe shorter if Gav wanted to be shorter. Gav, if it was half hour, then it would be half hour. But we had a meeting as a team, and it's always stuck with me around, so we would have played 03 World Cup with Steve Hansen, Clive Griffiths, and Clive Griffiths was the defence coach, and he wanted the blitz, which was the sort of off the line speed, put pressure on them, test the skill set, all that. The boys didn't want to do it. You know, Al Fish, Steve Joneses, Shanklin, Martin Williams, these type of guys, they didn't want to do that. And then Gareth Jenkins came in, Roland Phillips wanted to do the same defence system, blitz. They didn't want to do it. And he was always pushed back, and he was always pushed back because they weren't strong enough. I mean, I just remember Sean's first meeting as a team. He basically said, we're a blitzing team. If we don't want to blitz, fuck off out of the room, and we'll get someone else in. And you could see everyone just straight away in line. He had a reputation as a rugby league player, he had a reputation as a brilliant coach with Wasps, which started the blitz defence. And you just see the sort of, it was a line in the sand, and the dial then turned. Everyone was just like bought into it straight away, because it was someone who just stick to his convictions. I mean, this is what we're doing. If you don't do it, you can piss out of the door. So that's always stuck in me in my head.
Thank you. During your years together at the Ospreys, you became part of a squad which was known, as you mentioned, as the Galacticos. Because of how star-studded the team was, with a host of international stars from both Wales and overseas, it must have created added pressure on you as individuals. How did you deal with that pressure?
It was harder. Yeah, the Galacticos thing was a bit different for me, because it was almost in two groups. You had the forwards, and you know, they were all local. Certainly the front five. We were all from the Ospreys area. We all came through, and we had a really good forward pack. And it was all built on that, and the fact, like myself, Paul James, Hibbard, you know, everyone, Alan Wynne, Ian Evans, all came through the Osprey sort of system. So I always looked at it a little bit different. So when the Galacticos was like these type of guys, you know, the boys who would, you know, go and have a fake tan on the team run day, and you know, and like as Gav would say, if he looks good, he's going to play well. So but there was no crossover. But the Galacticos thing just came a little bit around the same time as Real Madrid, when they had Zidane, Figo, and all these type of guys. So it kind of, the Welsh media just ran that narrative. So it was always, I never saw it as, you know, we had good players like Tommy Bowe and Jerry Collins and these guys, but I never saw it as we weren't an arrogant team. Like we underperformed, if anything, in Europe. We probably had the squad to at least get the sort of semi-final final in Europe for a sort of 3 or 4 year spell, and we underperformed. You know, got hammered. Well, we played Saracens 1 year. We beat them 2 weeks before, 40 points. Played them 2 weeks after, one change, they beat us. Got hammered by Munster, and then we lost out in Biarritz then for the last minute. The American guy outrun Shane and lost us the game. So it was, it was, it was frustrating because we were so good in the league. We'd win leagues every other year, really. But it was that European thing. We just never quite got over the edge on it. So it was frustrating as a time.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Shane, but I didn't really feel any pressure as a player because, like, you looked around the room and there was world-class players everywhere. You know, the Welsh internationals, I know the boys have mentioned them, obviously, like Baum, like Shane, you know, your Duncan Jones, Hugh Bennett, Ryan Jones, Mike Phillips, Lee Byrne, the Welsh players, then the overseas players like Shane mentioned, Jerry Collins. I was a 20-year-old outside half coming into the Ospreys, and inside was Mike Phillips or Justin Marshall, an 81 cap All Black, you know. So it just felt like it was a dream playing alongside those sort of players. I think probably it was added pressure for the coaches trying to manage all those personalities. But yeah, I think, you know, we should have probably done better in Europe, as Adam said. But I think those characters make you the team you are. Shane touched on Mike Phillips, and you know he was a character, and boys like that just get you through the day, you know. And I remember 2015 World Cup. I remember usually you get something as a reward for being selected, but Gatland said on this occasion, you boys as a squad get each other something for the, you know, the selection of the squad. So it's 33 players, and you had to get 32 presents basically for each member of the squad. And I think Richard Ibbard got some terrible flat caps for everyone. I think Jamie Roberts tapped into his watch sponsor. But Mike Phillips, being confident as he is, got 32 signed photos of himself for every player. So, you know, but I think, you know, we all just best mates on and off the pitch for me, I think. So I think that helped us as part of our success, to be honest with you.
Yeah, right on. I think for me it was a little bit different. Obviously when I was at Neath, I was first choice and playing regularly every week pretty much back then, and we became the Ospreys, and initially the Ospreys wasn't too successful. We lost 11 games on the bounce, I believe, and it was quite difficult. But as soon as we kind of started finding our feet, you know, we started signing some good players. You had your Stefan Tablanches, you know, eventually you had players like Lee Byrne in the back three, Tommy Bowe, who's an exceptional player, Nicky Walker, all international players. And my mindset, I did feel pressure because I thought, right, I need to be playing well now because they're international players. You know, it's not for me to think I'm better than these guys. And they were very consistent performers. Lee Byrne had a great couple of seasons for us, was one of the best players in the world in 2009. And Tommy Bowe was an incredible international player. Nicky Walker, Scotland. So that put added pressure on me, but I quite enjoyed that because it brought the best out of me. I knew that I couldn't rest on my laurels. I knew I had to perform week in, week out. Okay, it's easier said than done. You don't always have a 9 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10 in these games. But I just went into every game then thinking, well, if I don't play well this week, there's another back three that's good enough to go there and take my position, and I could lose out to that. So yeah, it was good playing in a team, especially at the end when we did have some squad to choose from, because I knew that, you know, I had to be on top of my game to be involved in that, and lucky enough, you know, we managed to be pretty consistent and keep my position. But you know, we were a good squad. We definitely underachieved. Yes, Ngwenya ran around me against Biarritz out in San Sebastian.
Lost us a game.
I lost us a quarter-final, Heineken Cup. Not that Adam ever goes on about it, but that's rugby.
That was our year. That was our year. You fucked it up.
It was our year. But that's, you know, that is rugby. But you know, the great thing is that you know, we done particularly well, underachieved, and probably one of those things that still stings a little bit. But hindsight's a great thing. But no, we had some squad with some great players, and just be part of that and making sure that it elevated me to the best I could be was what it was all about.
Thank you. You all began your careers playing at Neath, whose home ground is the Knoll. Much like Rodney Parade in Newport, it's known for being a gritty venue, which opponents fear coming to. You've also played at some of the biggest rugby stadiums in the world in front of 70, 80,000 fans and spectators. Which of these environments would you say you preferred playing in?
I love playing at the Knoll. I really love playing at the Knoll, especially when I established myself as a regular starter for Neath. You know, it's very small. What's the capacity? 6,000 supporters, but it's a proper old school ground. I was going to say stadium. It's not a stadium. But I love playing at home. It was always quite difficult for teams to come there and beat us because of, you know, the hostility and the noise and the atmosphere.
The changing rooms.
And the change rooms where you could only fit about 6 people in, but, you know, that kind of worked. Loved it. The thing with the Knoll as well is, you know, I used to love winning a match, have a pitch invasion, and literally they'd be, you know, putting some of the players on their shoulders, not all the players on their shoulders, and you'd be lofted around the pitch, and you'd be like, brilliant, this is great, I'm absolutely loving this is what rugby's all about. And then you'd lose, and there'd be a pitch invasion, and you were just waiting for someone to stab you in the side of the ribs. So I did. I loved playing at the Knoll. But again, one of the things I do miss from playing is being at the Principality Stadium, or the Millennium Stadium, as we knew it predominantly, and you know, singing the anthem, knowing that your family are in the stadium watching you, knowing all the pressure that's there from 76,000 people, knowing there's another maybe 8 to 9 million people watching you on telly, and then having to sing that, the Welsh national anthem, and then go out and have to produce for 80, 85 minutes. That's what I loved. I had goosebumps talking about it, and that's one of the things I miss, is that, you know, I physically can't do that anymore, and it's one of the things that I can always tell my kids and my grandkids that I was lucky and fortunate enough to do. So I love them both equally. Obviously, different ends of the spectrum when it comes to capacity and everything else as well. But you know, people often ask me, and I do say, what was your favourite stadium? I do end up saying the Knoll most of the time. Not that it's a stadium, it's a cowshed with 6,000 people in it. But you know, whether you're playing in a World Cup semi-final, you know, in New Zealand, whether you're playing in a Six Nations match, whether you're playing for Neath against Cardiff in a Christmas derby, or whether you're playing for your local club in a game where 12 people have turned up to watch you play rugby. End of the day, it's a rugby game, and you put the same passion and effort and desire into every game you play, I suppose. But we're lucky enough to say that we've played in some of the biggest stadiums in the world, in some of the biggest competitions. But I just used to love playing rugby, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think similar to Shane. I think as a young player, you want to play in front of big crowds, and Neath was probably the first big crowd I played in front of. I played for Neath for 2 seasons. As a Port Talbot boy, I wanted to play for Aberavon. I was ball boy for Aberavon right till the age of about sort of 12, 13 years of age, and they never really came in for me. So Neath was my club then, and loved every second of it. And as Shane said, you know, the capacity wasn't that much, but when it was full, it was fantastic. And you know, teams dreaded coming to Neath because of the crowd. It was mainly against them. But then it's completely different to playing in front of the Principality Stadium. You know, in the Knoll or grounds like that, you can probably hear the abuse you're getting from the sideline. With the Principality Stadium, there's so many people, you can't even hear each other talking. You know, you're relying on hand signals and things like that. And probably looking back now, the players playing now, you know, the Ospreys players in particular, they're just moving now from the Liberty Stadium to St Helens, a brand new stadium, which I think is going to be great for them, because the last few seasons there's been 6,000-7,000 fans, which, all right, is okay, but in the 20,000 seat stadium, they're just rattling about. They don't feel that atmosphere, so I feel sorry for them as players. But come October, when the stadium's finished, and I think the capacity in St Helens is going to be 8,000-9,000, and season tickets are flying, so the majority of times it's going to be a sellout. So it'll be great for those players, and you know, that's all you can ask really, and hopefully that'll benefit in their performances as well. But to answer your question, it's difficult to pick one stadium. I went to Gloucester, played in Gloucester for 3 years. I'm not sure if any of you have been to Kingsholm in Gloucester. Very similar to the Knoll in terms of they've got a shed, and 2 hours before kick-off, the fans are there watching the goal kickers kick and warm up, and you know, a great set of fans as well. So those old school sort of stadiums are few and far between now. So I do miss those, but as time moves on, and you know, you can't beat the Principality Stadium. 74,000 fans with the roof shut. It's incredible to just be there as a fan, but we're lucky enough to have done it as a player as well. So yeah, it's difficult to pick one. Sorry, Caroline.
I've been in the shed in Gloucester quite a few times. It's definitely an atmosphere. Adam?
Yeah, same as these guys here. Yeah, I can't really elaborate too much. I think it's I think even, I guess the one with the Liberty Stadium is weird because it was 20,000 seaters, but even when we were sort of our best team, I think we only averaged like 8,000 people a year, even when we had sort of 20 odd internationals. So
the derbies
we'd sell a derby out Christmas time, and it was amazing because we'd play Llanelli and we'd usually put about 60 points on them, which was always a good one. But it was weird being that for such a good team. It wasn't the massive buy-in, and then obviously you pair it with the Swansea City football, who'd sell it out every week. So we never kind of got that market right, and I think it's great. It's going back to the well, not back to St Helens, but it's all being done down there. So hopefully they get a better crowd. Coming from England now, we're like every home game it's a 15,000 sellout. Like, obviously London's got a few more people than Wales, so the fan base is a bit bigger. We sell out Twickenham twice a year, once at Christmas, once in the summer, and it's remarkably different how everything's run, if that makes sense. Obviously it's a bit more cash up in Surrey and southwest London, and how it's marketed, and to sell out two massive stadiums, Twickenham twice a year, probably even the Welsh regional games, they wouldn't sell that out in a double header. So it's amazing to see the difference between what's like in England and Quins and compared to us back home.
Thank you. It's a bit of a sort of more informal question. Have each of you got a memory that really sticks out from your career that sort of makes it for you? Is there one particular moment that you kind of thought, yeah, this is it?
Probably first one, my first cap. I think everyone's what you dream of playing for Wales, and that was probably initially I never thought. But 2 years before I was playing for Abercrave in Division 6 Central in the Welsh leagues, and then 2 years later I'm packing down against Jason Leonard, who played 100 times for England in a Wales-England game before the World Cup, which was like mind-blowing because it just didn't make any sense because I was almost I was saying he never signed me on, but I wasn't at all in Estogan Lice. But that was amazing to get your first cap. Flip sort of 10 years later when we beat Australia with the Lions. Like I think growing up, you want to play for the Lions, and there's so much mystique around it, and it's and how it's a concept which is a bit weird because obviously the four countries come together, and then going on two tours, but then winning one. Yeah, I think that probably just my career went downhill dramatically after that. But it was for that one sort of summer in 2013 that was probably the best thing I've been in, winning the Lions series.
Yeah, I think probably for all of us our first cap was a special moment, but I think sort of the Wales-England game 2008, as I mentioned earlier, was pretty special for us all. But I think the year before, in 2007, from a personal point of view, was quite special because I always dreamed of playing outside half for Wales, and throughout the whole of that campaign I played inside centre. Stephen Jones was outside half, and we the last but one game we lost to Italy. I don't know if you remember when Chris White was the referee and said we had time to go for the corner. We went for the corner, and then he blew up, which meant we lost the game. So the last game, Stephen Jones got injured in the Italy game, which meant I was selected to play outside half against England, and we had to win that game to avoid the wooden spoon, and England were coming down to win the championship. So it was a massive game for all sorts of reasons, and it was just a pretty special game. We ended up winning the game, had a full house in terms of kicking and scoring a try. So it was just a special day sort of for me personally and for Wales, because we avoided the wooden spoon, but more importantly, England didn't win the championship.
Loads of great memories. Obviously, first cap and played 87 times in the end there. So every game was special. But I think the most important game in my career came in 2003. I had my first cap in 2000. I played a little bit in 2001, and then Graham Henry was the coach, finished, and Steve Hansen became the coach of Wales. And he obviously wasn't a big fan of myself. He was a big fan of the big players. So I got dropped from the team, from the squad. Obviously didn't take it very well at the time, and I was out of the squad nearly 18 months. But it was World Cup in 2003, and eventually I kind of found my form again. And I get taken to the World Cup as a third choice scrum half. And my first meeting with Steve Hansen, he tells me, look, you're third choice scrum half because there's all the other scrum halves in Wales are injured. We're not taking you as a winger, and there's a good chance you're not going to play in the back three. I realised straight away that perhaps this fella wasn't going to give me an opportunity, but we played Canada, Tonga and Italy in the pool stages. We won every game by nearly 40, 50 points. And I'm the only player in the squad that hasn't played any minutes of rugby. And the last game in the pool stage was New Zealand. And we had a few injuries, and there was a couple of boys ill, and I'd been ill the week before. But Steve Hansen came up to me and said, Shane, we've got loads of injuries. Do you want to start against the All Blacks? And I said, yes, please, I need to start. He goes, but it's the All Blacks. I was like, Steve, I really need to start this game. Is it on the wing? Yes, it's on the wing. So I said, brilliant. So anyway, reluctantly, he puts me in the squad, in the team. I'm starting against some of the best players. Joe Rokokoko, Dougie Howlett, Mills Malayena, some real class players. And my mindset for this game was, Shane, if you don't play well in this match, you're never going to play for Wales again. Because Steve Hansen will turn around and say, that's why I haven't selected him. So basically, first half, I've gone out and I've run myself ragged. I've set up 2 tries. I haven't missed a tackle. I'm having a really good game. Half-time comes, go back out to the second half. I've set up another try. I've scored a try myself. And Wales are absolutely unbelievable. Put 30-odd points on the All Blacks. Granted, we conceded 50 and lost the game, but let's not nitpick. We lose the game. I come off the field, and I've been given man of the match. Now, you can imagine how I'm pretty cocksure of myself. I'm thinking, this is it, Shane, you've done it, you know. Who do I want to see first? I need to go and see Steve Hansen. And I'm walking off the field, and Steve's walking down the pitch. And I run after him. He's going to do a press conference on the bottom. And I've tapped him on the backside, and I've gone, Steve, what do you think? And he goes, not bad, mate, not bad. I said, not bad? You do realise, Steve, this is my jersey from now on? And he goes, we'll see. And do you know what? For about 10 years it was, until George North, the bastard, came along and had it off me. But didn't fit in my jersey, let me tell you. But, so, I always look back at that game and think, you know, if that game didn't go like that, and I didn't put that effort in, I didn't kind of go out there and show that resilience, that I probably never would have played for Wales again. So, in terms of most important and biggest game in my career, that was it, by head and shoulders above any of the other games. But a lot of luck comes into it, but also at the same time, you know, the resilience and the fact that I had to play well in that game, or that was it, there was curtains for me.
Yeah, a lot of perseverance and resilience to be able to get through that. So last question from me, because I will be told to wrap up shortly. But so James, I've got a position as fly half, Shane, winger, Adam, obviously prop. But you've mentioned a lot of different positions you've played. Is there a favourite position that you liked playing, or one that you wanted to play?
Keep it clean. All right, I'll move on.
Did you want to play centre?
I would have loved to play centre or outside half, but unfortunately, being more bluebies didn't get you very far. No, I was destined to be a prop. Good money though.
Yeah.
He's a little bit too down on himself here. Weren't you goal kicker at some point?
12 goals.
I used to be a goal kicker, yeah. Yeah, but that was playing for Abercrave in Division 6. It's not like...
It doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter.
I fancy myself as I was quite skillful, but once I realised that I wasn't very good at carrying the ball or passing it, I just avoided it then. So my favourite, it's not my favourite thing. I'm pretty pleased with my 3 Grand Slams, but I've got 2. Do you remember that when we used to win? When we'd win Heineken Cup man of the matches? They'd give you these Waterford crystal like vases or plates, and my favourite, I've got 2 of them in the house. One against Benetton and one against Munster, and I didn't touch the ball in either game. So I got these. Yeah, that's so. It probably shows what my role in the team was compared to these guys. Yeah, I didn't touch the ball once in either game. It was yeah.
Like I said, outside half was my position I sort of desired and really wanted to play for Wales at outside half, but I was a scrum half until the age of sort of 16, 17 years old, and then I had my old club coach, Mike Barnett, because I love kicking the ball in open play. Mike Barnett, he's not with us anymore, but he's brilliant. He just said, look, okay, you've got to move to 10, you know, you love kicking goals, so he sort of put me in that position, but then as I sort of went through the ranks in Neath and with Wales, I sort of slowly moved out, and I played sort of 10, 12, 13 and 15, and I always say the 2011 Six Nations pretty much sums up my career in terms of position-wise. I started the first game of the Six Nations against England at 15 in Cardiff. Then I started at 10 against Scotland, and I thought that was great. Now I got a chance to nail down the number 10 jersey, and we had some great number 10s around the Welsh squad at the time. Priestland, Stephen Jones, Dan Bigger was just coming through. So I thought, if I go well, I can try and nail this jersey down. And it went well up in Murrayfield. We beat Scotland. You scored a try up there, Shane. And I thought, great, I'll have a run of games at 10. But during that game, Jonathan Davis, John Fox, went down injured at 13. I remember Rob Howley pulling me up in the Vale Hotel saying, look, okay, Foxy's gone down. You've got to play 13 now against Italy. So I played 13 against Italy, 13 against Ireland, and I went back to number 10 against France out in Paris for the last game. And that didn't go so well, probably personally and as a team. We lost, by about 15, 20 points, I think it was. And then after that, I remember the boys were calling me Jeremy Corbyn because I couldn't get near number 10 after that. So, yeah, but I enjoyed it all the same.
Fab, thank you.
Yeah, I haven't got any Jeremy Corbyn jokes, unfortunately, but no one has. Yeah, yeah. Look, I played a bit of scrum half when I was younger, but I wasn't a scrum half as long as I had a hole in my backside because I didn't pass from left to right and I couldn't pass from right to left. So I was greedy. My first instinct was to take the ball on and score tries. Hence, I was put out on the wing out the way, really. But I did get an opportunity. I was very lucky at the end of my career when I'd retired for the 8th time. I had the opportunity to go out and play in Tokyo. I signed for a team called Mitsubishi Heavy Industry Dynamos Tokyo. I swear to God, that was the name of the team. And I'd never played second row before, so that was a great opportunity to go out there and play in a new position. But no, look, I think I was destined to go on the wing because I was a greedy little git. I look now at players playing the game, and I would love to have had a crack at 10, but I couldn't kick. I didn't pass, and I didn't.
You used to kick.
Huh?
You used to kick, wouldn't you?
I did. I kicked for a season. Yeah, but there's a reason I only kicked for a season. Yeah. I got demoted very soon, but no. And my son plays. What I do encourage my son and a lot of the backs that play within my school team or my club team now. I move them around a lot. My boy can play 10. He's played scrum half. He's probably more natural full back. He's played wing for, unfortunately, the Scarlets, not the Ospreys. And you encourage any youngster to give it a go, really. What I wasn't going to be was a forward. I think I found that out pretty soon. And as you can probably tell, 70 kilos soaking wet's not going to do a job. But I think that's rugby. Well, the good thing about rugby is it's for all shapes and sizes. And as you can see, we're all a little bit different shape and size on the front here. But rugby is rugby. It's a fantastic sport.
Fab. Well, I just want to say thank you very much for coming and speaking to us and answering all my questions. And I found that fascinating, and I hope, and I'm sure everybody else did as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.